A split second. The small bottle of pills was sitting on the kitchen table, trying to tell me something about my future. I just finished getting ready for another day of high school, and it stopped me in my tracks. The face of the mascot for the Cashwise Pharmacy was grinning and winking ecstatically. At the time, it seemed to say, "Put on a happy face, young man. I am your brain on drugs." Celexa was the antidepressant I had been prescribed. I was supposed to take one before I left for school in the morning. It was there to help me focus, supposed to keep my train of thought from charging into the wilderness and rolling violently off the tracks as it so often did. It was supposed to keep self-doubt and overthinking to a minimum. "It won't keep you from having emotions," my psychiatrist told me. "It'll just keep you from getting stuck on the bad ones." In that moment, staring at the small bottle, it seemed Dr. Anderson amounted to the smiling emblem staring back at me. "There's no time to talk these things through. You have a high school career to get at. Put on a happy face, young man." I just stood there staring at the bottle, staring and thinking they had actually done their job rather well. My grades had improved dramatically. I could socialize with other people without having to memorize a mental script. I was no longer overwhelmed by the daily sequence of basic tasks. I was back to functional and reluctantly stepping into an accelerating world of golden stars. A sense of self and a new confidence were beginning to build inside of me, and it was all because of that little bottle of tiny pink pills that I was gazing into like a crystal ball. And that was where the problem began. It seemed way too easy. This was the quick fix to a long-term problem, and gaining a sense of self from a bottle of pills did not seem like the correct or natural way of growing up. I knew that the pills were correcting a chemical imbalance, but the idea that I needed to be corrected seemed ethically shady, at least. The imbalance was a part of me. The imbalance was me. If that was something that needed to be corrected, what the hell was the point in being a living, breathing, individual human being? Dr. Smiley Face warned me about thoughts like these. He said after a few weeks, people start thinking they're completely cured and can stop taking their medication. Then if they continued, people would often begin the thought process I was currently wrestling with. They would begin to think that the antidepressants were essentially taking away their personalities. They'd begin to miss the intensity, begin to ache with the emptiness. Generally, those thoughts went away after a week or so. But this was different. Of course it was. I was different. No one ever experienced depression like I did. No one else in the world ever got overwhelmed in high school. I was the only person to ever see the effects of antidepressants like this. Oh, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. So there it was, the little face on the bottle winking at me like it had just made reference to an inside joke, and me staring back at it while I weighed the pros and cons. I knew right there that if I just took the damn pill, these conflicting thoughts would fade away. I would continue to do well in school, maybe even graduate on time. I would enjoy the company of my friends more fully and would hate to say goodbye as I sailed off to college. If I didn't take the pill that morning, I never would again. My grades would drop as I began to get more overwhelmed. I'd be too embarrassed to come to class, and some vague fear of the sea of other students would turn my insides to lead. I would begin to doubt the authenticity of my friends and start to believe that it was just a matter of time before they moved on without me. Keeping in the tradition of self-fulfilling prophecies, I would officially drop out of high school and ignore my friends until they stopped trying to talk to me. Then the future would be a blank slate with no real chalk to speak of for miles. My mother came into the room and grabbed her keys off the kitchen table, interrupting my staring contest with the little guy. "Are you ready to go?" she asked. Yeah, I guess so. Did you remember to take your medicine? My eyes shifted around the room. I was somehow angry at her for even asking the question. I don't want to do this anymore.